Hello, my name is Linda, also known as Tortagialla around the internet, and I love creating creative journaling and all things stationery. So today I'm going to share a little swatch journal that I'm making. I know a lot of people do this in order to sort of organize and get bearings on all the inks that they have. I actually don't have that many bottled inks, but I thought that this ink swatching journal will actually just be a documentation of when I bought the bottled ink and what like fountain pen I'm using it with. And so it's more almost like a memory keeping rather than swatching just to, get organization because I literally have like 7 bottles, that's it. So I tried doing this in a Tomoe River paper passport insert. This is like 52 GSM Tomoe River paper, but it was really messy and I just didn't really like it. And I realized that of all of my journals, I actually like the Midori paper the most. My MD notebooks is something that I find sort of like the easiest to write in with my fountain pens, and I just really like the way that it flows. Now, I don't know if the Midori like 3-year journal and the MD notebooks, if it's technically like the same paper. I really don't know the specifics of everything, but I assume that they're all similar, which is why for the next year I'm probably going to consider getting the MD diary. So I already had this MD B6 Slim notebook in my stash, so I thought I should use it for the purposes of documenting inks. And it all started because I saw this stamp. It's from AliExpress, and I just thought it was cool, and I was like, ooh, it would be nice to swatch the ink inside the image of the stamp. So I could do some stamping, do my ink swatches, write with my fountain pens, and also have a record of all the inks that I have, when I bought them, and what pen I'm using them with. I definitely fall into that category of wanting like my fountain pen to match the ink that I'm using, if that makes sense. So that, I guess, is dangerous and maybe beside the point of using fountain pens, because the whole point is that you could flush out, the ink and use different ink and change it around, refill. But I just sort of like the, matchy-matchiness of it all. So since I have accumulated quite a few already, I thought I would just document everything. So this MD notebook comes with like this label, and if you're familiar with it, it's like flat, lay flat binding type of notebook, and it sort of gives you some directions on like how to label it, how to secure like the spine area, like with the bookmark and things like that. But I have another one of these notebooks that I use sort of like a quote journal, and this one is completely blank, and so I'm just going to use it for my ink swatching. I wish that the grid was smaller because I realized that I really do like grid paper, like graph paper, but I would like it to be much smaller so that I could write like one letter in one block. I still can do that obviously with a bigger grid, but it seems so giant and like spaced out. Anyways, personal pet peeve kind of thing. But this is the journal itself, and obviously it's going to take me quite some time to fill this up because I do not have a lot of inks. The only situation in which I think maybe I'll make like a big dent into this notebook is if I get like an ink advent calendar. Then I would get to swatch, obviously, like 30 inks, or 25 inks, whatever, like if it's a Christmas one, and that would add a lot to it. But I obviously wouldn't add 25 fountain pens to my collection at that time, so I don't know how that would work. But yeah, I really like the MD paper, so I realized that my favorite notebook to write in is like the Midori 3-year diary. And I definitely want like a drier ink so it's not too slippery and not too wet, and no need to blot and that kind of thing. So I do enjoy this. So what I'm gonna do is probably have like an opening page, to sort of signify like this is an ink swatch like record kind of journal or diary, and then start swatching all the other all the inks that I have, which again is really just a handful. I don't have that many. But because I tried to do this in that Passport TN previously, I had already decorated that Passport TN cover, so I'm probably just gonna rip that off and use that. Right now I'm like looking through the notebook and trying to figure out like how many blocks like to make it so the stamp is centered, and then I was trying to figure out like should I do an index and how many lines are there and how many pages, like if it was an index, how much would it go in? And I was like, I'm not really sure exactly what I want to do in the beginning. So oftentimes when I'm not sure, I just skip a couple pages. So it's like you leave yourself room to do like an opening page or an index or whatever it is you want to include in the beginning, but just start like a couple pages in so you can get to like the meat of it. So I'm going to use this cardstock as like some blotting paper on the bottom just in case, because I'm going to stamp and I'm not really sure how this works. But I have this like Memento, is this pigment ink? I'm not really sure. It's the one that I have. So black ink. And I'm going to try to clean off these edges because I'm really bad at stamping. It's not like I've never learned or you know, from my old crafting, scrapbooking days, card making days, I'm just lazy. So oftentimes things will not be very correct. And obviously you can buy like special like tools that will help you stamp straighter or better or something. I don't know if they work with wooden stamps, but definitely with the acrylic ones. But I'm just gonna play by ear, and you will see as we get into this that I do make mistakes. It gets smudgy and it gets off center, but all in all it turns out fine and it still works in the end. So I'm just looking at the like number of blocks on the left and number of blocks on the right, but I'm thinking I'm in the center, but then I didn't realize that the stamp in the wooden block itself is not like completely in the center. So like counting the blocks from the left and right obviously is not going to work. It's just going to be like slightly off. I don't know if it's necessarily that noticeable, but it's, you know, I mean, you can tell it's like a little shifted to the left, but it's not a big deal. So it does not bleed through. You know, there might be some ghosting, but it doesn't bleed through, so that is all good. So I'm going to be showing you through like a variety of clips because I basically left this notebook on my desk, and when I had time, I basically like did some stamping and gave it time to like dry so that I could then swatch the ink with like a Q-tip and then leave it open obviously to dry because I'm adding like a lot of ink. I sort of added like multiple layers. And again, I don't know if this is the correct way to swatch ink or anything like that. I'm just doing what I feel like to document like the fact that I have these inks and where I use them, like which fountain pen I use them with. And mostly I like dated also. Oh, this is the ink that I'm using. I don't know if you can read that properly. It's very old. But I also have like the refill ink dropper. So once this gets like too dry, I can just use the refill ink dropper to re-ink it. And of course you can purchase all of these things from the craft store quite easily. But it is like supposed to be permanent. So once it dries, you shouldn't get like smudging or anything, even if you're adding ink or water and stuff. So the stamp image itself will stay put. So you will see that I'm going to jump from like clip to clip because I did this in multiple different like sessions just whenever I had time, and also to give the ink time to dry. So I basically let the stamp impression dry itself, and then I came back and swatched like my very first ink. And I think this is my first bottle ink. Well, yeah, I think I actually went back and checked all my online orders because these are all ordered online, and I just put them in order of like purchase. So this very first one is Diamine Purple Pizzazz, and it's because I bought my first TWSBI Eco. Is it Eco or Echo? And that's what I decided to use. Sorry, there is like a crazy street cleaning going on outside. Exactly when I'm trying to do a voiceover, right? So this is the first ink that I'm gonna swatch, and this TWSBI Eco is like a 1.1 stub, so it's huge, very thick, and I like it because you can see, you know, the shimmer of this purple ink. Otherwise, you wouldn't really be able to see all the variations. But sometimes I forget to shake it. It's like when there's like glitter or shimmer inside the ink, you do have to shake it up, right? So that it gets mixed up. So again, I don't know if there's like a proper way to ink swatch, and I know I've seen like videos on YouTube, and everybody sort of has their own like style or way to do it. I'm sure I'm wasting some ink because I'm using Q-tips. Because it's probably absorbing a lot of the ink, right? Rather than someone who maybe would use like a glass, you know, tool or a metal tool. But again, I'm just gonna use what I have. So what I'm gonna do is basically dip the Q-tip into the ink bottle, and then I'm gonna swatch it inside the stamped bottle image, but then I'm gonna go back and do it again like on the upper half, so that like the upper left edge is like darker and has more ink, and then it gradually goes to the lower right that only has one layer. At least that's my thought. So because I'm adding like a whole lot of ink here, which by the way, it does not really bleed through. So this paper really takes the ink very well. So I'm adding it in like that, and of course, because there's so much ink, I mean, it's gonna need time to dry. So that's why I had to like do this in many different sessions and just leave it on my desk and let it like, you know, run its course like in drying naturally, rather than trying to blot or whatever. Also because if you let it dry like that, you definitely can see more characteristics of the ink, just like when it puddles in certain places and is thicker in certain places, thinner in other places. And of course this one has shimmer as well, so you get to see better all of that variation. So that is my first ink swatched, and obviously you can see, look, no bleeding on the other side, which is insane because I was like really adding on a lot of ink there. And since I'm using this with my TWSBI Echo, or Eco. Oh my god, I don't know why it just... I've heard it like a million times, and I don't know why when I say it, I can't seem to say the proper thing. I think Eco, right? Economical? So 1.1 stub, so I'm just going to basically write the name of the ink itself under where I have swatched it, and then I'm going to write also the fountain pen I use the ink in, and then I'm going to write the date in the upper right hand corner, and that basically is going to be that will serve as like my documentation for this ink. And of course some of these bottles are ink, like they're huge, like this diamine. I mean, I'm obviously, if you write a lot you will use up your inks, but I still think it would last a long time. But I do have some that are very small, like they're almost like samples, but they're not. They're just like you buy them for a couple bucks, so they're simpler, you know, not as crazy, wild kind of inks. But yeah, otherwise I feel like it would take a long time to use up the bottle, which is why I'm definitely am thinking about the advent calendar, because I feel like you get a lot of little bottles, so it's much more approachable in terms of like actually using them up, but you get the variety, so you can like play around with lots of different inks. But then again, I don't know if, you know, I want actually that many different bottles of ink, because am I really that avid of like a fountain pen user, and like ink swatcher kind of thing? I feel like I'm very boring compared to a lot of the people who really love like fountain pens and ink swatching, where they're doing things all the time. Like, I just sort of found the ones that I like, and I keep using the same thing, so it's not like I'm switching very much. That's why I said it's a bit silly how I have like this one bottle of ink and it just goes with this one fountain pen, and if I buy a different color it goes in like a different fountain pen, and I just use those for like certain different things. The fountain pens are not something that I carry with me. I'm like always deathly afraid of the ink getting all over the place. I'm pretty clumsy when it comes to that kind of thing, and I always get myself like dirty with ink even when I just refill my fountain pen. So it's funny because it's like I have all these troubles, yet I still want to do it. But yeah, it's just not like my thing. I really do like this TWSBI though, because it holds so much ink. You don't have to change it very often. You don't have to fill it up very often. So you can see here, this is the final swatch, and I don't know if I can get close enough so you can see it very well, like the shimmer and things, but I like the way it turned out. I just like the whole stamp, like jar effect. It's almost like, because of this purpley color, it almost looks like Galaxy space swatch or something. But I'm basically going to continue doing this for every single ink that I have. So I'm going to speed through this a bit because it's going to be sort of repetitive. But you can see here I did add that old TN passport, like sort of collage cover that I created. I added in the front. And by the way, I wanted to show you a comparison with when I swatched that ink and on Tomoe River paper and when I swatched it on MD paper. So you can see the comparison here. So it definitely looks different, right? The Tomoe River paper, it looks more purple. And I don't know if it's because of my swatching, like maybe I was just doing it later. You can see it in the lower right-hand corner. It is more purple when it's like one layer. But of course, if you layer another like blob of ink on top, then it's going to have that. So again, I skipped over everything because it's just boring to watch like the random stamping and swatching, but I did the same thing for every single ink that I have. So basically the second one is the Sailor 223, which came with my Sailor Prophet Junior because it was like a little gift kit, which I thought was really cool. And I do like the Sailor pens because they give more feedback, and I feel like I do like that more. So these are the little bottles that I have, all from Herbin. Because they're like really tiny bottles, and I feel like they just are easier to use up. And you can see on the Tomoe River paper, it looks washed out. It's like weird. Or maybe it's because of just one layer. See on the lower right hand corner, it's like really light, but if you layer on more, it's really thick. So you can see when I use it with my Jinhao 82, which is extra fine, it looks really light. But then I have another AliExpress fountain pen that is like, don't know what it is. So let me just show you. So this is the TWSBI Echo, which is with TWSBI Eco. Oh God. With the purple. This is the Sailor Prophet Junior with the 223 ink. And so this is the Jinhao 82, which I made sort of like my coffee pen. And this pink one, it's really, really pretty, but it's like anonymous. It has like no name. It's from AliExpress. It's a fountain pen. And I don't know what the nib is, but it's definitely more than extra fine. It's not like defined, basically. It's just like anonymous fountain pen. But you can see that because the nib is thicker and more ink comes out, the ink looks darker when you write with it. Then I have a Platinum Preppy with this black ink, also from Herbin, Pearl Noir. So Platinum Preppy, and they're really inexpensive and affordable, so I had gotten that one just because there was that special edition that had that pretty like red patterning on it. It makes me think of like Asian, you know, motifs, so I really wanted that. Then I also have this coral type of ink, and again, you can definitely see there's like a difference in terms of layering on Tomoe River paper and layering on MD paper. Like, I tried to do it on the Tomoe River paper as well, in terms of adding more ink on top and creating like a darker spot, but you can see that on the MD paper, you can see it much more. So this is with my pink Pilot Kokuno, and this is like my favorite ink right now, which is this green, which I use with my Kaweco Olive Sport, and oh, I also had, did I skip one? Black ink. So I was just showing the comparison with Tomoe River paper. But you can see with this colored, this is the Rower and Klingner Alt Goldrun, like a green. But you can see how the difference between like one layer of ink and darkening it up. And you can see on the Tomoe River paper, you can see some variation, but not as much, right? Not as much as the green, not as much as the MD notebook. So again, it definitely makes a difference, like same ink, but like different pens, it'll look different in terms of the nib size, and different paper will look totally different. So the effect is just not the same. And these Tomoe River paper sheets are very old too, so I'm assuming it's like the old Tomoe River paper. They were like loose leaf sheets, 52 grams, that you could buy like a stack of. So I just have a whole bunch like in my archives. So this is my current favorite ink, and maybe it's like a little tad too dry, but I like it. And this is my newest acquisition, KWZ Eldorado, and I have it in my Lamy Safari Mango M. So it's pretty thick. I feel like this mango, like the M in Lamy Safari, is almost like the Tusby Eco, kind of thing. The stub, like it's so thick. So I can't write very small with it, but I do like that golden color, which is why I bought that ink, even though I have no idea where I would be writing with such a golden color. But yeah, that is my like extremely small and limited ink collection. And I do have other fountain pens that are not inked or inked with some of the same inks as well. My very first fountain pen is actually a Pilot Metropolitan. So I wrote with that for like years in my Hobonichi, like just personal journaling. But once I got into like different fountain pens and different colors, it just sort of went a bit crazy until now that I'm basically like, okay, let me just use these for a while before adding on to the collection, because I'm not going to be able to like really experience it and know what it is I like or don't like if I don't use them for a long time and really get a feel for it. If I keep adding more new things, like I just don't know if I can make like good judgment, you know what I mean? So that is my ink swatch, like documentation journal, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching this process. Let me know in the comments below if you have an ink swatching journal. I would love to know, especially if you also have a YouTube channel. Definitely let me know. I would love to check it out. So thanks so much for watching this video, and I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more stationery and journaling content. If you enjoy digital printables, be sure to check out my Ko-fi feed, where you can support my design work with tips, buy printables in the shop, and join the membership to get access to monthly digital paper packs. You can also download my freebies posted on my blog, tortagialla.com. I've been posting there for years. You can find a very big archive of freebies to download and play with. So thank you again for watching, and I wish you a lovely day until next time. Bye.